Welcome back to Rift Rivals, ladies and gentlemen, where we have answers to absolutely everything apart from how Machi was able to win that last game against OMG. And now we've got yet another test as RNG go up against AHQ. And lady and gentlemen, what do we take from this particular matchup? Because AHQ haven't necessarily looked like the team that always seems to be at Worlds in that second or first place coming out of the LMS.
Yeah, this time around, AHQ are probably in the worst position they've been domestically now that competition is getting a little rough. Of course, at the beginning of the year, they've decided to put in Chowie, who's been performing well individually, and you look towards the rest of the team, you're like, okay, Zib in the top lane, Mountain, like what has been happening? What has been going wrong? It's just a lot of their times once they get into the mid game, their team fight, it's not working out. It's just about a coordination at the end of the day. So I want to see, they just want to be able to build back up, use this tournament to really get themselves going. We said the same thing about Machi, so you know where we're going with this.
Well, the home team buff seems to be working out. But guys, RNG as well, I mean, they're not necessarily looking like they're in the form that they were, you know, around MSI last year, things like that. So this is another team with a bit of a redemption story on the line.
I think there's actually a lot of similarities you can contrast between these teams, right? If the team play is the problem for AHQ, RNG are rebuilding, so team play is naturally going to be a cause for concern. They don't have Uzi, they have Y4, and he's new to the team. They've got a new shot caller in Ming, who's had one split with them, has been reasonably successful, is on and off, though, in terms of his own performances. So if there are inconsistencies when it comes to team play, where there isn't inconsistencies, it's actually the strength of the individuals in the roster. And there have been some stars across both of these teams, and that's true for RNG specifically as well.
I do want to flag MLXG, though, for kind of poking holes in where RNG can fall over. It is in their jungle position right now. He's had such an inconsistent, very swinging performance. Either he looks phenomenal, he starts to hard carry if he gets a champion like Kha'Zix, or he just forgets jungle pathing, seems a little bit all over the map, and is very scattered.
Yeah, and I feel like RNG have sort of always had that, and MLXG has been up and down throughout his career, but now they don't necessarily have those superstars to pick things up as well as, you know, there have been other players on this roster
and
that have departed.
Tried. They brought Koro back to the roster. He's the shot caller for EDG now with RNG. And they tried to use him as this rock, this experienced member in the top lane. And suddenly Letme has come back. And Letme arguably looking better. I know a lot of people are still very high on how Koro performed individually.
Yep.
But it just didn't feel like Koro had meshed with the team as quickly as what Letme is able to seamlessly fit into for an international tournament. So they are still trying, but they haven't found the solution yet.
That's why it's going to be a great test for him to see if he can go up against Ziv, a very strong carry top laner, to see if he can hold his own. Now, I felt like Letme, when he did come in, you've already mentioned that he was strong coming into this last week. Of course, they still had EDG as a last bit of scheduling, and they didn't do well there. But regardless of that, going into that, that's going to be a great send-off in terms of having that experience, being able to play against the top competition coming into this tournament.
I'll see what he can do. I want to look towards the mid lane here as well, because Westor has actually played more than Chowie, and we saw sort of Westor take a more backseat role. Chowie was one that.
Chowie's been playing a lot more than Westor.
Well, it's actually, he's got 7 and Westor's got 10 at the moment in this current split.
That's not true.
Isn't it?
Yeah, you're probably looking at, you probably got the wrong statistics.
Oh man, someone.
Wow, he just, you literally just fouled you out.
Yeah, no,
that was like
please,
a red card.
Please, this is why you're the analyst. Explain.
I've got you. See, because Chowie coming in, I know that there's always been the question of which one are they going to be using, Westor or Chowie. Westor has always been great in being able to get other laners ahead. Of course, he falls behind incredibly early on, but they have been favoring Chowie. And Chowie has been great in early points of the games where he can rotate towards the side waves. And even though you can say that that's what Westor has been doing, that's where his strength has become. And we're going to be looking at the roster: Ziv, Mountain, Chowie, On, and Albus. But it feels like Chowie can do this without having to fall behind in lane.
Yeah, also does a whole lot more damage as well in comparison to percentage team damage when he's on the roster as opposed to Westor, unless that statistic is also completely
Well, I feel like that also has a lot to do with the different champions that they play. Chowie's much more about champions that can make that AoE
playing
damage.
more than 2 champions as well.
Or that too.
It helps, and that and not split pushing all the time as well. Perhaps more team fight damage. I think
we
that
should
is
have
obviously
probably
an
looked at the
advantage.
damage to minions, which Westor would certainly have a handle on.
I'll say one thing, and the damage to champions, the support of Albus definitely has an edge on that one. Definitely because he plays brand support quite frequently. It's so, like, that's a champion that teams are suddenly having to have to ban. And if you're talking about a support player that likes to not so much cheese but has a different pick, aka Leona, then you knew I was going there.
I was getting so excited. I was
I
like,
actually wanted
Leona
to go there as
brand.
well. That was like going to be my next one. I'm like, But Leona's being played in the LPL. You can't play scrappy against these
So,
guys.
I just want to see what I feel like if these support players decide to just hold off onto second phase and go into it, we're going to go into the LPL roster of RNG on the other hand.
Yeah, it's Let Me, MLXG, Xiaohu, Y4, and Ming, their new shot caller, and the Leona player in question we're talking about.
Yes.
And this guy is explosive. He's very heavy roam, very heavy playmaking ability. Look for things like Leona. He'll probably stay traditional, go for the Tompkins and Braum because we want to be boring this tournament.
No, I hope not.
But RNG have pulled out a Nocturne Leona composition, and I want to see it come back.
I was going to say, I'll do you one better. It's not just the Leona. It has been banned away from MLXG this year, and that is the Nocturne. They are very good at using this duo and actually having just a very aggressive, kill-heavy jungle bottom lane.
And I also like the fact that it's like darkness and sun as well as far as thematic themes are concerned. Of
course you would.
That's just brilliant. They need to play Diana in the mid lane and we'll just have everything. This is just brilliant. Not going to happen though. And going to the mid lane for RNG, Xiaohu, I wanted to save him for last because, of course, when I was here, he was my all-time favorite player. The guy plays all sorts of things, and he is a shining light for RNG at the moment.
Yep, Little Tiger has really grown up and into his own. He is definitively the best player on the team right now, and he's having a career high. He has never played better than he is this split.
And I always wondered where the pressure was coming from, because initially it was like, okay, MLXG and Xiaohu together, they work incredibly well, but then they started using Yihan, especially when MLXG wasn't performing up to par. And so you start to see Xiaohu perform well regardless and look to rotate towards the side lanes, Let Me an extra hand.
And a super interesting dynamic as well, as you're seeing between these mid laners is Xiaohu, yes, is in form, but they also have a very shared champion pool, with Talia actually being the cream of the crop here when you look at mid laners. He wants to roam around the map. Let's just say you have the Leona Nocturne. Well, there is a mid laner that you'd want to put there with that to be able to rotate, lock people in place, and use that duo, and that is actually the Talia. And Xiaohu has looked so good on that champion that it will be hotly contested here.
And it's not just the damage that he can output with the Talia, it's how they use the Talia to close off objectives. RNG in the LPL used to be known for very early Barons, and then once they had the Baron, it was like a one-hit wonder. They would just steamroll over you. And a lot of that was because of how they used the Talia wall, not only to secure the Baron by locking enemy teams out, but then maximizing its pushing power by using the Talia wall to lock off towers and inhibs.
And what I'm afraid of when it comes to this matchup, because we talked about Ziv being a strong top laner, and we'd love to see that 1v1 happen between Let Me and Ziv. The thing about Xiaohu is that regardless of what champion he's on, if he's on the Talia, if he's on the Echo going into the Syndra, that he will prioritize going towards that 1v1 matchup and tilting it in towards Let Me's favor. So Ziv always has to have a jungler in his behind him, or B, just in the back of his head, that paranoia that you're never alone.
Yeah, we need to have the mountain checkup as well, because I feel like every time we see AHQ, we dip in and out of the LMS, and we go back and we're like, what state is Mountain in at the moment? I recently saw one of his incredible highlight. Baron still plays, but is this what he's doing every single game, or is he still the Mountain that we're asking questions of almost every time we see him?
A bit of both. He's not going to be getting Baron every time, so I can't say that. I like how early on, he's prioritizing just the getting the top lane ahead a lot of the time. So Ziv is always on a proper playing field, as well as the mid lane. So currently, his early game, I would say, is pretty decent. That's what he's expected of. He's a role player, and so I think he's been playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, partly within a region as well where you would be looking towards top laners when you've got Ziv on your team. Get Ziv fed. Easy way to win the game. You contrast that, though, with RNG. Usually it was get bottom lane fed, and they've started to switch up their styles just that little bit more. And here, contrasting junglers, I would almost say prioritize mid over top, because Let Me's probably not going to win lane by himself, where I feel like if you leave Ziv on an island, he will be able to at least control that lane.
That's why it kind of talks about what are the pick and bans going to be. Because the last time we saw RNG, a lot of the times they weren't afraid of blind picking a Camille. And so if they're going to be going to these, top lane picks that really do need extra help early on, then you will expect MLXG to be on Elise. I mean, you expect everyone to be on Elise, but that's his marquee champion. And so we'll see if that's going to be a part of the map that they just try and abuse.
And again, we're looking at different trajectories for these teams. You know, J-Team Flash Wolves, they come in, they're looking to cut their international teeth and make a statement. AHQ and Machi, they're in kind of a different boat. AHQ, yeah, they're the international representative that the audience is used to, but they're just trying to stay afloat in the LMS, you know, kind of right the ship, figure out what's going on. Is it Westor? Is it Chowie? Where's the problem, and patch up the holes. So coming into this tournament, it's a very different vibe for AHQ in particular.
Well, it's just a very delicate time of the year for every single team that's going to be competing at Rift Rivals, you're in the middle of a split, so you're starting to actually cement yourself. Whatever your roster is, you're growing into the world's part of the split, which is what everyone wants to peak at. And so right now, there are a lot of things that can be exploited.
Especially when LMS is getting that extra seed and you start to ask, well, who's going to be able to get that, right? AHQ has been that team that's always gone the extra mile, and being in the 4th position is not something you want. Definitely not a comfortable spot.
It's not going to get you there. We'll see whether AHQ can make it happen now up against RNG as we hop into Champion Select. We're going to say goodbye to Proskern and Raz. They'll be back at the end to try and explain what is going to happen in this LPL LMS clash, which I am incredibly excited about because I want it to be something like the previous one that we saw.
I feel like that makes one of us. In saying that,
hey,
it was exciting.
Come on, man.
No, it was exciting.
Yeah, good.
There's limits to what everyone wants.
Hey, that's true. And you're the analyst, whereas I just want action all the time that is very confusing. And we certainly got that, as we already have bans coming through thick and fast. That is going to be the Karma, the Caitlyn, and the Elise band art on the blue side, as Zach and Galio have already been taken away by AHQ, and the LeBlanc is going to follow against Xiaohu, which makes a heck of a lot of sense. Throughout his entire career, that has been his go-to lady.
Yeah, take that from Xiaohu. It does still leave open the Rek'Sai if they really want to prioritize that in the jungle role, and the Thresh, namely, of course, with the Elise band and with Zach Galio gone. I would say Thresh is number 4 in terms of priority for champions, just about all 3 of these regions, actually.
Also a really difficult one to then pick brand into if Albus did want to go towards something like that. And we were talking about contested mid lane picks. Now the hover of the Talia is at least there for AHQ.
Very early rotation if they commit to that one. And I'm not surprised that they do, because we mentioned again, it's Xiaohu's best champion. Above and Beyond has looked fantastic on it. Xiaohui has it, so it's a shared champion between the two in that pool. But a first pick means that they don't necessarily need to hold on to the mid lane role for RNG, and they're on blue side. And so the counter pick may be going to top lane now for AHQ.
Well, it is going to be the Lee Sin locked away for Mountain. I thought that something from the jungle may not necessarily be locked in until the last round. They could have tried to get a priority AD carry just because Mountain has, you know, Gragas, like what MLXG has just locked in. And of course the Rek'Sai is still available to him as well, which is going to go completely unnoticed. Let me could of course be playing that Gragas on the top side of the map if he wants to.
Yep.
Xiaohu now has an opportunity to pick something up at the same time. We'll see what it's going to be. I would suggest something like an AD carry, keep their options open, but of course you never know with RNG.
You might want to round out your bottom lane, but again, they've seen the Talia. They can counter pick with whatever they'd like. Corki has the same idea as a Syndra lane with Talia, is that if they use the W, dash at them before they can actually get out the combo, just beat them down with it.
Yep, just smack them in the face. That is going to be the brawl I'm having a look at here by AHQ, so not opting to pick up an AD carry, and they're going to straight away ban out the Kalista.
So
not going to be able to grab that.
They're banning AD carries because they have the first rotation, you'd have to imagine, but RNG haven't responded with AD carry bans of their own. It's still a shared champion between both teams, and so AHQ need to be careful. If they ban another AD, RNG may just say, well, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yep.
We're a Nocturne Leona team. We may as well just cheese and have a Jarvan bottom.
It's going to be really hard to pick Nocturne Leona here, but I would certainly be impressed by it. What necessarily happens, you've got Corki, AD carry, and Corki Leona was always a fantastic
The premise
lane.
of this, of course, is that they wouldn't ban an AD carry second if you're AHQ, and as you can see, it's going to be a rumble.
Yeah, okay. You're just trying to get me away from trying to work out this team composition, Rusty.
A little bit.
I understand that. It was pretty awful. As Renekton is going to be the final ban here from RNG, still focusing on Ziv towards the top side, and that is going to equal 3 top lane bans, as the Ashe is going to be considered by AHQ to round out that Freljordian bottom lane.
Played out as you would expect for AHQ. Going for the AD, meaning their top laner will be the counter pick Ziv, star player of the team. They'll be able to give him that one last, as RNG have locked in their AD carry. And still towards this top lane with the Rumble gone, Renekton gone, Fiora gone, you'd be looking towards a Jarvan, almost as a pick of necessity.
Well, Lemmy does have a decently large champion pool to go with, but does have to blind pick it theoretically, unless MLXG is going to get a jungler.
Unless they really want to give him Gragas, that's right. But this makes the most sense. It should just be the lock.
Yeah,
and AHQ should know that fact and be ready to pick something into it.
But it is still a flex pick, Rusty. They could switch it up. We've been seeing J4 in the jungle more often than not, and MLXG even plays it completely off meta. As here we go, it's going to be the Jax locked away here for Ziv. Something that we've been seeing more and more recently.
And I think this is the only time where I would look at RNG and say, yeah, it can be a flex if you'd like. But the Gragas top lane, with the changes not having the 3 Doran's rings, is not ideal, especially into a Jax matchup. You're just kind of giving the scaling over to Ziv. So they're going to stick with the J4, it looks like. And I'm not going to say that's the best matchup in and of its own right. Jax will start to scale up naturally against literally everybody under the sun, but there is still a lot of gank pressure up there with MLXG working with Letme. They've got the capabilities to take Ziv out early and try and just empower Letme to carry for the rest of the map. Xiaohu has got his own version of Talia that is in the meta with Corki with the package, and then Xiaohui's got Talia. So there's going to be a lot of roaming from this middle lane to see where they can impact the rest of the map, which is honestly quite volatile.
Yeah, of course, both of these mid laners likely to get themselves out of the way. We've seen Xiaohui's new and improved Talia pick in that mid lane, and Xiaohu has always wanted to get out of lane as soon as possible with whichever state of the LPL he is in and whichever team he has been on as well. So we'll see whether Letme is going to be getting the help, but MLXG, he's always the question mark, but he's back on what is old and new comfort in the Gragas, and the bouncy castle top lane could certainly be an opportunity. It's not necessarily a Renekton Elise, but that is still amazing gank pressure coming out from both of these champions.
But to be perfectly honest with you, Atlas, I look at both of these team compositions, and I still feel like I would lean to the side of AHQ with just the end result of what they've got for themselves. Ashe, Braum, utility bottom lane. Braum's a good pick into Xayah, of course being able to deny the feathers, and then Ashe can give you an engage shell under the Thresh if Xayah ever decides to get the heck out. And then Braum's going to be able to block any kind of follow-up there in the first place. So the 2v2 sound from AHQ, they set themselves up nicely with their utility lane. You've got the Jax, always is going to outscale, able to split push, and just has a lot of map pressure as the time goes on. Lee Sin can bridge the early game, Talia can bridge the mid game, and Ashe is always going to be consistently relevant in certain ways. The scary part, and I mean we said this last game, is what can RNG do early?
Well, they can certainly face check this brush, and Ziv has to use his flash. The hook was certainly on point, so Ming is going to get that one out. So nice start for RNG, and that is certainly something that they can do.
It's definitely the best way to start. Mountain, I think he's AFK, and Letme just shows him.
Yeah, no, he's just going to wander himself out of the way.
I could have waited perhaps for the Thresh hook. Very high cooldown though. This early in the game, RNG, they get the Jax flash, which is super big. Xiaohu.
Yeah, that is a lot of volleys threaded towards him. He even gets the slow. He wants to hold on to his flash and does so. We'll go back to base now.
They want to actually cancel it. Xiaohui's going to overexert himself to try and do it, which is why MLXG is blocking.
Okay, protecting the back of his mid laner, sacrificing his own health bar. Gragas does go down relatively low, but he should be absolutely fine.
And J4 is going to spend some time with him as well and be able to leash. So maybe you tank the first 2 hits. Your passive will give you some health back anyway. You'll be okay if you're MLXG in this situation. At the same time, Ziv's able to grant a rather nice leash start for a Lee Sin by having the counter-strike there. And we're starting on the top side of the map. That's the biggest takeaway. Remember, Jax, no flash.
Yeah.
Always going to be impactful. To contrast that, though, Charlie's going to have himself a nice experience lead, you would imagine. Look at the CS difference already. Pushing him.
Right now, MLXG is going to be able to take down his blue buff, but both of the junglers starting on the top side means that we may not necessarily see that top lane gank pressure coming out unless Mountain wants to go for some cheeky level 2. Actually.
Yeah, so the only one that's going to be there is Mountain. He'll be doing red buff, maybe a level 3 clear. Could even be a full clear from him, as you're starting to see now, going towards the Krugs. To contrast this, MLXG's look towards Raptors is prioritizing his red buff first. We'll probably smite it, then go to the Raptors. But he also knows that Charlie's starting to move towards there, is about to ward for it. And it's risky because he'll be revealing himself just to clear the jungle. That's actually a very long journey from Xiaohui. I thought he was warding for the Raptors, his bottom.
Yeah, that's not warding for the
They're
Raptors.
engaging.
That's Y4 getting exhausted, using the flashes. Albus flashes on top of him as well. They're looking for an early first blood, and they should be able to get it, as Xiaohui's the one that picks it up. Albus now potentially in trouble after getting hooked, but it doesn't matter. AHQ on the board at not even 3 minutes in.
But Xiaohui just thinks he's Aurelian Soul, apparently. That is a ridiculously early roam coming out of a Talia, using the wall, going through the jungle next to MLXG, and there is a ward at that red buff. That almost spotted him as well. That's how close it was. Of course, Xiaohui's going to skirt the walls, able to avoid that vision. Fantastic early gank.
The thing that's crazy as well is that RNG had a ward on that Raptor camp. They knew that Mountain had stayed up towards the top side, which is why they're playing a little bit more aggressively. Just weren't quite expecting the old Talia roam at level 3.
No one expects him to go bottom. They warded where he was going to ward, and then he was gone for an extra 5 seconds, and by the time you announce that fact, he's already going.
Just crazy stuff. And Mountain not going to get 3 buffed either, as you're right, he did clear that full top side, and he's just going for a full clear of his jungle entirely. Farming things out quite nicely. MLXG has gone back and bought himself the beginnings of his jungle item.
Of course, just go to the Scuttle Crab now if you're Lee Sin. You get a cheeky recall in there. Very easily done from him, honestly, where you contrast this to LMHT. By no means jungling poorly. He's just not going to clear as fast as that Lee Sin, who purposed himself to a full clear. It's almost like the Talia has become the jungler in this one.
Yeah, and Xiaohu's going to get aggressed on here by Xiaohu. He doesn't have a lot of mana remaining. These pebbles are going to explode, but he does avoid that damage, and Mountain now looking to try and pray. Exactly right. I did want to ask some questions about Xiaohu, as he's now in a little bit of trouble. He's taken the Warlord's Bloodlust. Has exhaust, and has a Doran's Blade. This guy is changing things up right now on this Corki.
I mean, Warlord's Bloodlust is the standard for LPL Corkis. I can't speak for every region, of course.
I do like the Thunderlords.
The Thunderlords is nice because you can proc it with your Gatling gun pretty much immediately. So it's good for lane trading. But you go towards the Warlord's Bloodlust build because your build has shifted. You're not going to go towards any lifestealers. Mountain, say hello.
Devil. That's a lot of damage out of MLXG. Does have a flash to follow, but Mountain just waits for the safeguard and gets himself out.
Yeah, everything was used by MLXG. There was no chance of a follow-up. So it was a little bit cute from Mountain. Loses most of his health as a hook connects.
Yeah, that should be the snare up there as well with the Blade Caller, but that is going to be a stun onto Ming, and it's just going to be trades from RNG.
And that's the matchup with the Braum being able to block the feathers. So there's not going to be a follow-up stun from any kind of thresh hooks that connect unless he gets them out early as the hook connects. But ultimately, Mountain lives. The same time mid lane, just to come back to that Corki point for you as well, because the itemization choices is Trinity Force into 2 crit items. You have Warlord's Bloodlust, and you crit them, you get a majority of your health back.
Yeah,
it's like the Jin
more.
and Caitlyn effect.
I like it a lot. Especially when you can crit with magic. Magic crits are the coolest. It used to be just a Nivea, and now you get 80% magic crits from a Corki. Beautiful stuff.
It's certainly a thing that is really hard to build resistances for.
Yeah, not a great one.
When both champions can crit you in both roles.
Unfortunate. Do you build a Randuin's Omen against a magic damage dealer?
You still build Randuin's because it reduces crits of all varieties.
I'll write that down for when I'm facing my next Anivia. Build Randuin's first item.
I believe the E is a crit, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
As Mountain is now going to discover MLXG. How does your medicine taste, Mr. Gragas?
Tastes like he wants to go back to base.
Gatorade, I think. I say, unfortunately, brand dropping. Okay.
He's still going back to base either way. Mountain gets pressure, and we'll be looking towards still on the top side of the map. But RNG have wards there. AHQ are very proactive with their vision. Very deep with it,
and
though.
also never really hanging out
like
in
this
lanes.
is accidentally perfect.
Yeah. They're just going to wander into each other. There's the flash. Blast cone. Ming says, all right, well, I'm terrified, but things are going to be okay.
Elvis actually was the one who punched the plant and got him out. So makes it a little bit more streamlined, perhaps, for the Thresh. But I think the big point to actually note there was they were in the perfect spot and they didn't even realize it. They were looking for the Thresh, but then he actually just wanders in behind them like, what on earth are you doing here?
It's like a weird game of musical chairs or something like that, where the
With
chairs are really
blindfolds
tall.
on.
Yeah. They all came around the corner. There he is. Okay, Xiaohu's going to be able to grab a blue buff in a brief moment of normalcy. 600 gold is now the lead for AHQ, however, after that first blood, equating to approximately that amount, meaning that the rest of this map is looking relatively even.
These junglers are just having a grand time.
It's a punch-on.
They're looking for the second red buff. They've got Corki also who has push pressure in the mid lane. They've also got the Jarvan pushing top. So actually Mountain probably might want to exit the area promptly.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people coming down. Mountain doesn't want to give this one up, but he has to. It's going to be all the burst coming out of MLXG, and they do lock that one down. So
that's
good
the
pushing
advantage of pushing lanes. Exactly right. They're able to secure themselves one buff back in their favor. The immediate movement from AHQ. Remember, all the wards were placed earlier, and it's like he is actually just a bottom laner on cue.
Xiaohu just did a kickflip as well. That was super cool. I didn't know you did kickflips on Talia.
When you mount the wall.
Today I learned.
The rock, rather.
Now, Xiaohu could be in trouble, but trades back very nicely as there's the Counter-Strike, and Ziv, whoa! That one does some damage. Exactly right. Now that he has that level 7, does have the ultimate available to him if he wants to go in for some extended trades against the old Jarvan, but barely even needs it, just needs to press W after an auto attack.
And of course, think of the effort that comes into what Mountain's doing here. Speaking of trades, is that nothing is honestly the answer there. They've got a Talia that's pressuring mid lane because the waves bounce back. You've got a bottom lane that's doing super well in the 2v2. They were the ones that set up the wards for Mountain. He was trying to cheat towards his own red buff first, and RNG have to bring 3 people there to try and push him off it just to secure the red buff, not even just actually secure a kill with that. And so far, pretty sound from the AHQ squad, diffusing any kind of early aggression that would ever be there from an LPL team.
They seem to just have the answer. Ziv evens out that top lane CS gap that was present. Letme is going to be able to get a bit of that back now, pushing that wave back forward. Has himself a couple of shirts and the strange axe that's allowed him to hit stuff that's all around.
Banking on the Thresh hook to connect here in this bottom lane. You'd never really count on Y4 doing anything forwards as Zaya with the lantern nearby.
And another Counter-Strike. He just seems to be able to make these trades work every single time on the side of Ziv. Cancels one auto attack, but otherwise
Talia's
that's
also
pretty
looking,
flawless.
has the blue buff, so Letme has to respect that fact, and they're looking towards plays in the bottom lane RNG, which is why they need to respect that. LMHT was nowhere near that area, and they had no vision on Mountain, who has since revealed himself, of course.
Yeah, it was a cheeky little play from Xiaohu, but Threaded Volley's not going to find him here in the mid lane. He should be absolutely fine. MLXG wanting to get something done, but that ward is worth so much as Ziv gets himself to a safe position.
And they've pinged exactly where MLXG is. You look towards Mountain, honestly, in response to that and say, what is the Lee Sin going to do if they have at least assumed knowledge of where the Gragas is going to be? He's got free reign of the river. Mountain is still expecting a gank to be top lane. In fact, with the trades we've seen in the past, Letme might die soon.
Yeah.
He's still looking to counter, though.
Mountain is actually just decided not to come back in. The Leap Strike should be available relatively soon, but Ziv just goes for that trade and
here,
Mountain just doesn't do much. Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Well, it's too much respect.
But I guess AHQ, they don't necessarily have the onus on them to try and get this work done. Slowly but surely they are getting incremental leads. Xiaohu looking to try and do his best to answer that towards the bottom side with the package. But remember, the Jax probably just wants to wait until 40 minutes and then 3-shot turrets. Like, he's not too worried about this.
And the communication isn't too complicated from AHQ either. It's Corki made a really loud noise.
Yep.
And on the map is running towards bottom. We might want to back away.
Yeah.
So they back away. Talia's going to shove mid. And only when Talia sees the Corki, which was right then, do AHQ step up. So playing simple League of Legends is playing out arguably that little bit better than RNG are.
Yeah. And measured play isn't necessarily something that we've associated with RNG in the past and seems to still not necessarily be there, as AHQ are looking pretty smooth on Summoner's Rift for now. As MLXG doesn't get the steal, but may actually get a kill.
Oh, that kick!
That kick was so cute. It's the package not enough to quite get him over, and that Ash Arrow not going to find a target that it's looking for. Double teleports coming in as Letme looks for the flag and drag, finds it. Cataclysm goes down, but brilliant exhaust stops the damage. Meanwhile, MLXG is going to be taken down by Chowie as it's just all going wrong for RNG. Letme dies as well. And my God, AHQ played that out so beautifully.
Mountain, with the smallest amount of health remaining, is able to get out alive, trading and beating Letme when it matters most. So well executed, honestly, from all of the AHQ roster. And it all started with a brilliant kick coming from the Lee Sin after securing the objective, which is already, with that tempo advantage they're picking up for themselves. This could not go any better for them, honestly, at the start of this game.
There are a lot of good news stories to come out for AHQ. Team that we've associated with success in the past. And pretty sad so far in the summer season, but looking to try and turn that one around, and this is a great way to do it.
And of course, MLXG's body slam is gone. He flashes. Not only does he kick him into the Corki, he dodges MLXG's ultimate. So really well done. Both of them smiting, of course, but Mountain hits the Q, chooses to back away, and then Braum comes in to save the day. The timing on that exhaust was picture perfect. Xiaohu, he's immediately gone. MLXG's already dead, and with no health remaining, Mountain gets to waddle away.
Yeah, exceptional exhaust and really good heal coming out from Arn as well. Mountain multiple times down to about half an auto attack away from dead.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah, and we've got some crazy evenness towards the top side of the map, but Arn has slowly but surely created pretty sizable advantage for himself. 26 CS in the lead is a big deal on the Ashe, and this is looking like a dead Ziv unless he can turn this one around. Mountain turns up, and nope. Absolutely nothing they can do. So Grandmaster's Might was used.
You know what happens when a Jax and a Lee Sin dash to each other?
I don't know what.
They actually swap spots. I was hoping we were going to see that.
I was hoping they'd bonk.
Yeah.
Like bonk heads.
And they meet mid-air.
Yeah. Donk.
Well, one goes under, one goes over.
Ah, okay. Yeah, well, that's true. That, I guess that'd happen.
But still, you're right. You mentioned the bottom lane pressure. You can see how that's now been exerted by Talia, who is also looking.
Oh, there's the Weaver's Wall. Okay, MLXG just wanders casually. That's his maneuver, and works very effectively.
Very maneuverable man, MLXG.
I know, for a fat guy, this guy's got some agility.
Accidentally dodged a lot of stuff. So Lee Sin Q, Talia shove, all gone. That's the Talia ultimate gone. So Corki then gets pressure mid lane. But that's where Mountain comes to play. As MLXG's actually answering back almost.
Yeah. Damage with the fast bomb. They're fighting on multiple fronts. Good slow comes out as there's the cask, and Xiaohu's delivered a kill all too easily. Okay, RNG getting themselves at least on the board kills-wise.
That's what he gets for flash kicking before Atlas.
Ha ha ha.
Bit of karma.
She was banned, I think.
There's just a bit of it then.
All right.
It's one frame.
Oh, it is going to be Ziv continuing to push. And then actually just throws out the
I don't know if you want that.
No, that's another Grandmaster's Might that comes in. Cooldown on that one is not super high. As Lemmy, I think that was just more of a message to be sent. It's like, I'm frustrated!
Forcing him to recall perhaps, but neither of them have teleport. Lemmy's looking again now.
Doesn't get the knock-up, doesn't want to get underneath this turret as the Empower comes in, but not a lot of mana left on Ziv. Otherwise, I believe he would have taken that fight.
There is a chance. Lemmy's still able to push this one in. It seems like Ziv's going to be forced to recall. When you look towards the rest of the map, Corki's bottom. He's been spotted. Ziv chooses to stay because he's got the Lee Sin and the Talia rotating up, and now this is just becoming a giant bait.
Yep. Considering it has now let me just above half health, but Chowie's saying that he doesn't really worry about that too much. Flag and drag comes in, so at least let me spidey senses were tingling.
Let me tell you,
casually goes down.
That ward, I've never seen something so dead.
That is so dead. Yeah, super dead, I believe, is the coined phrase for that ward.
Okay.
If only the glacial fissure did damage to the wards.
The unfortunate part is that it was on a ward, so it's still going to be spotted.
Oh,
there we go.
The casual Winter's Bite as the arrow sent out in celebration. Just saying, we like throwing out ultimates, but we only need Qs to take blue buffs.
You can take this arrow and stick it somewhere safe.
And my axe. It didn't work. Sorry. Trying to throw out the reference, but we just didn't get an opportunity. Ziv's going to continue pushing, try and save us from this topic of conversation. As Letme does catch up. Hasn't actually bought in a little while.
I feel like
Tiamat's still there.
Watching both of these teams, one of them just has more reinforcements at all times. Now, both mid laners obviously can roam. One's package reliant for more successful roams. But even then,
Chowie, who's never in his lane.
Yeah, Chowie's
above now.
He thinks he's Westor. It's working.
Not my fault. Trading nicely against Arm, but that is exactly what Zayas can do. Doesn't have his Thresh around. Ming going on walkabout towards the mid lane.
And I'm sure Frostgurin's very excited to note that we have had the most LMS game possible because they're still laning.
LMSy as. Although it's not very messy, so this is not that. I was going to utilize that one when things are actually going messily, but this is actually quite controlled out of AHQ.
You're falling on your own sword, man.
I know. Speaking of which, Static Shiv is going to be done by Arn. We've only got a BF sword there for Y4. See whether he heads towards the Essence Reaver, and he's going to complete it right there, as I said.
Mountain looking towards Letme, just pushing him off again. The turret is the name of the game. It's the first turret, and already with the 2,000 gold leaders. Whoa.
Okay, Explosive Cast comes in. MLXG just going for the 1v1.
Oh, there's the Corki.
Aha, package delivered. Chowie in trouble. The exhaust comes in. Doesn't find the fast bomb, but just needs an auto. He has those, and that is going to be the kill. So it was all a bait from the big Gragas in the mid lane.
It was certainly the right idea seeing the Lee Sin top. They just make the play. Xiao, who had the package, is able to use that package and just remove Chowie from the map. Has the big item spikes of his own, of course. The Trinity Force with the Sorcerer's Shoe, so he's set to go, ready for action as Arn.
That's a point blank arrow. He's going to be able to hit that one as the hook is going to be narrowly avoided by sidestepping.
RNG need to get out.
MLXG's in a heck of a lot of trouble as they give up on the dragon, but there's the Glacial Fissure finding the mark, and Albus is going to help grab that one. Ming's in trouble. Almost able to survive with the shield, but that is going to be the Ash falling down as Y4 Featherstorm's there. He flashes his way out as Albus. He may just die. The cleanup's coming in. Double kill from Ziv as he says, yeah, I'll take this fight. Xiaohu's in trouble. Does have a rocket that he can throw out. Triple kill comes in, and there's my boy on the Corki in the mid lane.
Mountain's obviously on the other side of the map. You're seeing him take the Rift Herald, but a massive triple kill from Xiaohu. Now 5-0 on the Corki. And he is going to be one of the biggest threats that AHQ have to deal with from here on out.
He is the biggest threat. No one else has any kills, Rusty.
Y4 was playing it well to survive for as long as he did. Of course, it's not going to amount to anything for him, unfortunately, because you're right. Not even an assist for Xiaohu, and also about to give over a shutdown.
It's the shutdown gold problem that we were discussing before. Theoretically, if you can actually land some of these
Oh!
threaded volleys.
Xiaohu!
Oh god, Xiaohu almost does it! As Xiaohu should have had a much easier time claiming that kill. Okay, just trying to keep us on our toes, and so far these games have certainly been that.
That should not have been that close. Xiaohu kind of just a couple of degrees off there.
Bit left of center.
We get to see this. Arn plays this well. Ming, not expecting the juke, I suppose. But now at this stage, the smite was used well to keep him alive. Albus has his ultimate back from something that was tragically used earlier. And Ziv's teleport time. You have to note how quickly he gets here compared to Let Me. Let Me comes in and then locks Y4 with Ziv, trying to disengage. But at the same time, the flash is used. So for how long RNG survived here, it gives enough time for Xiaohu to be working on the back end and still have enough damage, again, with those big item spikes we mentioned, to secure the kill as well onto Ziv with the triple.
Yep. And now Ziv has the Trinity Force. I believe didn't for that last fight. So Xiaohu hitting that spike a little bit earlier, now building towards his Infinity Edge, which is now so important. Talking about those magic damage crits, now with some extra crit damage, that is a big problem.
It hasn't gone static shiv, hasn't gone rapid fire cannon, it's gone straight towards the attack damage spiking. So the crits will be nice, the crits will hit harder, but they're going to be a little bit less reliable. And he's banking on those Sheen procs as well. The weaving of the ultimates in there.
Like it.
This is a problem though.
Yeah, Ziv, little does he know, he is most likely dead. And by most likely, I mean very dead. This welcome to the Thunderdome, as Knockup not going to come in, as Letme's going to have to use the Cataclysm, but I think he's out of dashes, as somehow he was inside the wall. That was odd. MLSG's going to grab the kill.
He lived for an exceptionally long time. I think long enough to give AHQ the obvious trade. It is one kill onto the teleportless member of AHQ, so even at respawn, RNG can try and make the play. And I feel like, you're looking at it, they are trying to make that play. It looks like the mid lane outer turret is the name of the game here, but Mountain, he's thinking one step ahead.
He's just going to utilize the Rift Herald towards the bottom side of the map. That is going to mean that that Rift Herald will get themselves a trade, because the mid lane outer, like you said, is going to fall down. And it is going to be Let Me getting some damage towards the top side as well. So RNG looking good. But let's have a look at this fight one more time. As Chowie going to journey down towards the bottom side. Is why do we have to watch this,
Just catches him recalling. And this is the problem. Not this part, right now.
Yeah.
He expected the juke down, missed the W, and then suddenly, that was
Suddenly it was way too close.
It was very close.
Golly. Okay. Black Cleaver done for Let Me, as they weren't able to get the top outer turret in that time we were spending in the relay chamber. I don't think that's what we can call it.
Give him the...
Give him the 1-2. That's just the one. You don't want that.
And we're seeing the innovation from MLXG. He's gone for the Knight's Vow build. When you've got this many carries on your team that you can empower, it makes sense. I just like to see it, of course, adapting to the new patches.
Yeah, I also like it with the Zaya as well, who does need some extra survivability due to that shorter range.
I think
want to be utilizing her as effectively.
From the Knight's Vow point as well, you'd be looking towards Thresh and, say, the Locket natural progression of items. And they have two support items at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but when they spike with what was usually one for Ming. It means they're team fighting. This accelerates that a little bit extra.
See whether RNG can utilize it. At the moment, still down in gold, but there is a hope. And teams have struggled with the old 1-3-1 or the 1-4 compositions, as AHQ are going to have to make that one work with this Jax. But so far, the early game has been kind to them. And we know that if you get to that position where time is something that you can buy a lot of, Ziv will be feeling very, very good.
And surprisingly important picture-in-picture that you're getting right now with Ziv being an absolute pest on the bottom side of the map. Let Me, he's just wave clearing, has gone for the Tiamat as soon as possible, and is just using the Q, expending mana to clear the waves. But that means he has no mana, has no utility when he teleports in throughout all of this, and will never be able to trade with Ziv. He just lets it happen now. Ziv, already outscaled in terms of dueling, but is also now going towards the Titanic Hydra, and will actually be able to team fight as well as 1v1 at that stage.
And smash minion waves like nobody's business. Of course, the Tiamat helping him out already. Building that after the Trinity Force, of course, because that Trinity Force spike is so important. But that is the Infinity Edge done for Xiaohu. So the beautiful thing about Corki has been discussed already today, but you get 1 item power spike, you get 2 item power spike, you get 3 item power spike with when you get your Zeal item.
You just spike a lot.
It's a pretty spiky situation if you're a Corki. And Arrow just gonna be narrowly avoided there. I feel like that may have hit Earth's tail.
Also took out Let Me's behind at the same time.
felt like that arrow was in a different dimension. That should have hit people, but nope. He was unfortunately in, it was an upside down arrow, I think.
Whoa, Mountain, what are you doing?
He's getting body slammed, but not going to get flashed out of the way of there by Mountain. All the skill shots just going wide, and it's a bit of a party. People wanting to demonstrate that they have buttons, but not wanting to really hurt anyone.
Well, in part, catching out Mountain because he was just clearing wards inside the pit, but then Mountain walks towards people looking for him. He could have just eased up just that little bit extra, but Arn gets his red buff. Everything just calms down. Mountain's going to be missing his flash. That's the only advantage that you'll be looking at here for RNG. That's a lot of damage.
Cool, Ming was really capitalizing on that one, flashing forward for the
We
hook.
just have Jack's camera.
Yeah, Jack's cam.
This is wonderful.
We could probably just keep Jack's cam up. Just follow him around.
He's recalling. You don't want to watch that.
Oh.
You can't actually see him purchase the items. It's not worth it.
Just watching him, watch Jax hang around in the store. Why don't you want to see that? Does he is he indecisive and it's just
can't
frustrating?
It's
Come on, man.
I'd watch it if I could watch
was talking about
buy.
like a cool Jax shopping trip, like a sitcom scenario. Come on, you got to get with me.
I would rather watch this though. Atlas. I would much rather. I can't speak now.
Oh, it's because
Can't
I was
believe you've
saying
done this.
something incredibly stupid. Xiaohu's going to clear out this top wave. Still a control ward hanging out there towards the top side, and Ziv back in his natural habitat, which is alone in a side lane. Feeling pretty good about it. Wi-Fi's going to be able to clear out this wave quite quickly, as RNG certainly not worried about wave clear or anything like that. So
No.
he'll be able to keep at least 2 waves pushing.
Neither team are worried about wave clear, so to speak. I mean, he's gone for his static Shiv build. He's just going to be sitting back and trying to apply as much damage onto the people that run towards him. I'm okay with the static Shiv build if Jax is the primary target going onto him. Maybe he accidentally hits other targets while he spends most of his time running away from Ziv, to be honest.
Yeah, that's okay.
Y4, he is going to have a really rough game. But so far, 0-2-3, whilst it's not the best performance, he's still scaling up. Let me, on the other hand, has a long
narrowed.
way to go.
Yeah, there's a wall that comes in as well. Xiaohu jumps out to the right side, and there's the flash out of the Cataclysm. Xiaohu says, now this is uncomfortable, but
Release me.
eventually it goes. But RNG
got the
utilizing this
lantern
pressure
too.
so
He's set.
nicely. Yeah, he's totally fine as Ming. Clearing out Vision just casually, and that was just a straight-up positional outplay here by RNG.
And Xiaohu's now going to be the one dealing with the Ziv split push threat that comes into the bottom lane, and he doesn't actually commit to going for any turrets, knowing that Corki can maybe 1v1 him. That's super scary to go up against a 5-1 Corki with 2.5 items. Respecting just a little bit, in fact, recalling.
Whoa, that's a lot of ping.
As Xiaohu. Oh, he cancels
He's
it.
going to be able to stop it. That was so incredibly close. Counter-Strike comes in. Grandmaster's Might's there, but good timing on the exhaust. Flay's going to be avoided with the flash, but the hook doesn't find the mark. The flash from Xiaohu, that's the second auto attack, and he's going to be able to take him down. He didn't want to use that summoner spell, but he'll pick up his 6th kill if he can.
And honestly, about 6 crits coming out of Xiaohu, or 4 crits from maybe 6 hits. The odds were very much in his favor there. They go towards the Mountain Drake that is conveniently spawned. They don't actually settle for a Baron or anything crazy. They know that AHQ have got the vision controlled around that area, but they get the mid lane in a turret. They get the pick down in the bottom lane. There's a chance now with the minions stacking up bot that they can continue to go down. They use that, get the outer turret as well, secure the outer ring, and set up the map just that little bit more successfully. Ziv, he can sit bottom because that tower is still a decent safe zone for him in terms of where RNG's vision will go.
Yeah. Xiaohu's just having such a game today as well. I mean, we know this guy has performed in the past incredibly well in international tournaments. Thinking back to MSI a year ago, when RNG were in that group stage looking
Playing Ring Around the Rosie.
just
with
ridiculous. Yeah, that puppy was, he's going for a walk. It was adorable. Yeah, Xiaohu just having another stellar performance. Now with his 3 items, Rapid Fire Cannon done, so that issue with not being able to get an auto attack and having to use a flash is now going to be negated.
And honestly, one of the few times where I would say recalling as a team is not the best idea, in saying that Corki is able to compensate with his package and get out super quickly, so be able to provide the vision. AHQ, they've well and truly committed to what is a 1-4.
Yep.
As long as their 4 doesn't die, then they're happy because they know their 1 will win sooner or later. Let's just play the game as slow as you'd like. Wait for RNG to make the mistake or make the play and then you counter it. Package is a very good time to catch somebody
All right,
unawares. He has no summoners.
Speaking of unawares, scouts people out with the rockets. I like it. Now they're just happily wandering into AHQ's jungle. Thankfully, they weren't lying in wait for anything. Wards are going to come in. AHQ looking to regain control, but they're going to be traded. That's a lot of control wards being taken down now by RNG, getting this control around the Baron area.
We've got the 3 big items spiked though for Xiaohu, so no one can step up. No one can contest him. The closest to be able to fight him, of course, there's 3 items on Xiaohui and Arn. Their damage is huge. But you'd have to wonder, can they actually keep up with the amount of damage that the Corki will output? Xiaohui's ultimate isn't a damage-dealing ultimate. Arn's level 14. Xiaohu's spike to 16 isn't far off having his exhaust up again. This is a dangerous situation right now, but when those sums are up...
Well, Hook is going to land on Albus. Unbreakable's there. Wow, that static shift proc did a lot of damage as Xiaohui is going to get the seismic shove. MLXG not going to be too worried. He's
a lot of effort
tanky
for red buffs.
Yeah. Oh my god.
RNG have shown themselves as really keen to fight for these red buffs. Of course, it's the LPL special.
I think just fight in general. It's like, aha, they want this. We can fight.
I feel like, you know, of all the LPL teams we've sent, EDG and OMG are the more fight-heavy ones. RNG, they try to. They just aren't always going to execute on it appropriately. And sometimes they'll just default to, we need Xiaohu to do literally everything kind of compositions.
I'm not going to argue with you there. That's exactly what's happening in this game.
Makes you kind of want Uzi back. In the same vein, Y4 hasn't looked bad.
I have a feeling they may just do that, as Banshee's Veil is not going to be popped, but that's a lot of auto-attack damage coming out of Y4.
Lots of mid pressure. I don't think they'll continue to push down mid. It's always a possibility. The mid lane, the bottom lane outer is the easy take for them. Past that, it's still the pressure around the Baron, the highest priority for them. Because we really are getting that picture-in-picture for top laners. Oh, yeah. This is Pulse's dream.
This is what we want. And Warden's Mail's done for Let Me as well, whereas that's a Spectre's Cow picked up by Ziv. So not necessarily playing into the Jarvan matchup, but Xiaohu was the one matching him earlier.
The Warden's Mail is good, but he still needs to go towards the standard Gargoyle Stoneplate now, and he hasn't actually spiked towards his 3rd item as a result of going towards Warden's Mail, not committing. Ziv isn't going to go towards that either, though.
Oh god. The second 3-item power spike that we need to talk about is Y4 picking up that Infinity Edge. All of a sudden, this Xayah needs to be killed immediately, otherwise she may just kill everyone.
Still definitely hyperscaling. I guess we alluded towards this. Ashe is... Oh, hang on. Mountain.
Yeah, Mountain, you are in trouble. That's one more auto attack and he's dead. Explosive Cask was optimistic.
It was flashed.
And it is going to be flashed exactly right by Mountain.
And Mountain barely lives. Jungler super low usually indicates that RNG will just go straight onto the Baron. But they haven't committed. They're wanting the hook, which goes wide.
Not going to find it. Okay, so of course that was blind. Control ward there sorting it out as RNG now looking to clear out this vision, but Mountain was given enough time to find his way back to base. Grab himself a couple more items there as well, looking for that dead man's plate.
The point I was going to make, though, is that they've gone for the triple crit build even on Ashe, which isn't always going to be the build that you see for Ashe. Blade of the Ruined King is usually the items of choice. There's even the Essence Reaver if I'm losing lane and just want cooldown reduction build. But he's hard committed to the Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon Ashe. And those long-range crits, surprisingly, will be doing quite a substantial amount of damage.
Yeah, Ashe, of course, using crit a little bit differently to other champions as well. I like it. Different from seeing... Oh, God. That wasn't even a big one.
No, that was a big one.
Was it? All right, good. Jesus. That was a lot of damage from Xiaohu.
It's one of the biggest ones.
So big. There we go.
You can see it on the bar now. We changed core.
Yeah, I know. I thought
no, it's just a fun fact. It's not at you in any way.
Well,
they've got a Baron.
Yeah, no, it's dead. Okay.
It's actually uncontested.
There wasn't really much of an opportunity. And that's one Mountain Drake. They've just got too much damage, Rusty. I think that might be the problem.
Not just that, they were two-manning it. Xiaohu comes in late to help secure it from about 4k health, but Y4 and MLXG just two-man the Baron. Well and truly, easy secure.
Yeah, nicely done. Abyssal Mask picked up by MLXG as well. Haven't actually seen that one for a while.
It's the way to go if you're going to go for a magic resistance item, in my opinion, besides Spirit Visage.
Yeah. Also wants to be able to boost up Xiaohu's ability to get stuff done.
That is big, of course. Extra magic damage around the user, and they don't have the most magic damage besides Xiaohu. MLXG indirectly will buff himself.
Yep. At
the exact same time. Will directly buff himself, indirectly buff Xiaohu. That makes sense.
Certainly does. Does now after clarification. Like it a lot. And Xiaohu's going to continue pushing things up. How are RNG going to utilize this Baron buff is the question.
They can't 1-4. They can 1-3-1, or they can 5v5.
Or they can take a dragon, which is, I think, what they're going to do first.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was trying to answer your question of how do they use the Baron
Yeah,
buff.
but they're not really necessarily doing any of those things, and I wanted to draw attention to that because I feel like getting extra pressure in these lanes is a good idea, and they're giving Ziv free reign to get things shoved out.
It's nice to get the Ocean Drake if you've got control of Summoner's Rift, with the Elder being the next Drake of choice. So it's good to get that out of the way early, so that the Elder does spawn sooner. In saying that, they have also committed to the bottom lane. They've said we're doing a 1-4, but we're only doing this on the premise that Ziv doesn't get involved with a flank, and our Jarvan is more impactful. So as long as Jarvan's not losing lane, as we do have Ziv Camp, he's walking through mid. He's just taking mid.
He's not going to get to this turret as, my God,
What on earth?
The amount of damage is ludicrous. Xiaohu just says, all right, really wanted to catch that arrow. As Xin goes in like, geez, got the fight. Xiaohu just explodes. And then Xiaohu's going to be able to pick up that kill. A hook's going to land immediately afterwards. There's not enough exhaust to help this one as Mountain goes for the flashy play but just can't make it happen. Of course that's enough damage to kill him with one auto attack. God, this Corki does so much work.
And Jax has arrived. Your base is dead. RNG are looking to end the game. Ziv's going to have to try and stop them.
Yeah, a little bit of an oopsie there as he's going to have the biggest hero play. But look at the damage to these Nexus turrets.
Ziv, do something.
He used his ultimate button. He's pressed that, but the Nexus is now going to get taken down. The knockup comes in. Arn gets exploded. There is too much damage on this squad as Ziv eventually decides to press some buttons at his opponents, but it doesn't matter. It is all over, and RNG take down AHQ.
At least he took the hero's way out, Atlas. He joins his teammates
Via the Death Chamber.
in Valhalla
Yep.
and goes to Odin's Gates. But he also gets a defeat with that. RNG, they're able to pick themselves up a fairly clean victory from this side. It just felt like with AHQ having the early momentum, the early leads, it was never really something that exacerbated enough to be a straight-up victory. And RNG just slowed the pace of the game down, matched AHQ, took the Baron, and that was actually it.
Yeah, and there were some worrying signs there from RNG in the early game, but they righted the ship and everything was okay. And welcome back, Frosco and Raz. And guys, what did you get out from this? There's a smile on Frosco's face. She's feeling good.
Oh, all is right in the world. That one felt very good to watch.
The little tiger was so good, Frosco.
Big tiger, big tiger.
Yeah, he was big.
Had a lot of flashy plays. We saw him in the
What
bottom
side
side
are
of the
you
map.
on, Raz?
Yeah.
Does that matter?
LMS
Doesn't matter. I'm on the side of enjoyment, all right? And I enjoy.
I'm on the audience's side.
Oh,
There's
dear.
no ribbon for participation, Raz.
There's always a ribbon.
If there was
If
one
it's-
though, Raz, you would get it in a heartbeat, and I would make it for you.
Oh,
I'd
thank
draw.
you.
I'd draw it out of crayon on this piece of paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll do it later.
You want
guys.
me to
Can't
take
get
you
it
through
done
that
now.
game?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thanks, Frosco.
perfect.
Bring
I
us
got this.
back.
I got this segue. So effectively, what happened that game is Little Tiger became Big Tiger. He had the Corki. We talked about Corki, spike, spike, spike. Like that guy never stops, and he hard scales super well. Now it looks bad for RNG when Chowie makes that cute little, who expects level 2 Talia gank bottom? Like, surprise, this actually happens. And then RNG take that wonky dragon fight where they're in between all of their item power spikes. I believe Chowie was sitting on double penetration boots and the start of his Leandries for that fight. So, yeah, AHQ are going to blow that fight open. But as soon as Xiaohu has his Trinity, he's like, okay, boys, time to team fight. And not only does he team fight, he picks up a triple kill. And then suddenly, Ziv and all of the damage he's been doing on that Jax can't stand in a 1v1 across from the Corki. We even saw him go a really late adaptive helm because I think he's like, I don't know what to do here. Like somehow we have to deal with this. And Xiaohu just hard carried that game. It was literally just all of the pressure, all of the resources trying to deal with this super fed Corki.
It was definitely a tough call from Ziv because later on, picking the adaptive helm, I would have much rather loved the Randuin's Omen so he can actually look to pressure up on the tower. And if the Corki comes through, well, I mean, at least you're dealing with some of the crit. That's like the only worry that you can kind of get through. But
or it's something like committing to the split push as well. Maybe build more damage because he had some time by himself.
Did you see
with a little
picture?
hat? Yeah,
that guy was
Jax,
committed.
He was committed, but just didn't have the items to commit,
And took the mid lane outer turret backdooring.
I'm not saying that it was the right commit, but he definitely was committed.
He knows what he wants.
It's like committing to, well, I'm already falling. I'm just going to commit to falling down and make it look as good as possible. Didn't necessarily work out. I did like the idea that AHQ had towards the beginning of the game. They got stuff done, but more to the story is the fact that RNG were able to sort that out. And how were they able to do that? Was there a specific point in this game?
Yeah, there was a lot of their Baron control. So around 32 minutes, there's the big Baron play that's made, and the vision setup for it is phenomenal, but look at what Xiaohu does. Again, it's this idea of all of the resources. AHQ do a great job by trying to pull RNG out of the river. They're going to start pressuring mid, but Xiaohu is just too massive a problem to deal with, and he's actually able to zone off most of the team himself. And that opens up space for this super strong Xayah at this point in the game, because she's got her 3 items, to just rock up and 2-man the Baron. Xiaohu jumps on the back half of it.
That's how much, if you have that much amount of sustained damage, just being able to play that much of a simple game where you just push out mid, and even though you don't commit to a fight, you can just burn out the Baron so easily. You already mentioned it, but that's just, it's a simple game plan, but it was an effective
But even like one step further though, right? He's zoning mid lane, and if you're AHQ, you just throw the arrow at him. You just arrow him out, but then you've got the Thresh nearby with the Lantern who's able to save him the entire time anyway, so it diffuses perhaps your one engage tool, and just gives them something extra for RNG.
And then it's also the strength of RNG's Baron control. We said it before the game that when this team does get Baron, the game usually ends in, the next 3 minutes. They're just so good at maximizing every possible inch of that buff.
Yeah, but they were also able to get so much vision. There was no opportunity for AHQ to get anywhere near the Baron. And yes, it did explode in about 5 auto attacks from the gigantic damage out of the Xayah and the Corki as well. But that was sort of irrelevant because AHQ had absolutely no idea that that Baron was even being taken because of the vision control that RNG were able to establish, in contrast to, of course, what OMG weren't able to do necessarily towards the top side of the map in the previous game. So RNG really showing that they can play that controlled late game style that we have seen out of this team in the past.
Again, we have to pump the brakes in the LPL domestically. OMG are right now performing better than RNG.
Yeah.
RNG were the team that we were most worried about going into this event. They have very high highs and very low lows. And unfortunately for AHQ, they rolled the dice and they got RNG on their best day. But I don't know if we're going to get this RNG every single time. This was a treat, but I feel like Corki really band-aids a lot of those problems because it empowers Xiaohu, the strongest member of this team, so well. He can roam. He's never going to be weak. He's always going to be relevant in AoE damage for these fights.
He was also enabled with the pick, and you can see here as well, I mean, it was Ziv not necessarily being able to get the work done, but the cleanup from the Corki is huge, even through an exhaust.
And this is the triple kill that really just turns it all around, because now where this Jax was looking so promising and so dominant, suddenly things are going to go very sideways, because if he tries to match 1v1 across from Corki, there's nothing he can do.
Yeah, that felt like the lingering threat, honestly, didn't it? When he overexerts himself, he wants to split push, wants to be the threat. Jarvan goes missing and Corki goes missing. He's like, well, they've swapped, I'm out.
Yep.
And that diffuses all of the pressure pretty much immediately. If the package is available, Corki can 1-3-1. He can split push with the Jax, recall, get the package, and help the team anyway.
Yeah, and you saw it on the side of the screen for a good portion of the game where it's just a battle between split pushing versus a battle between who's going to be going for those team fights. And so, like, honestly, you have to see Jax be a lot more active and looking to get a few more chip damage on the turn.
Yeah, and Xiaohu is going to be able to pick up that MVP. If anyone's surprised, then you obviously weren't watching the game. He had the sole kills for RNG at the beginning when he was sitting at 5-0, and the Corki probably did the most ludicrous amount of damage possible. We are going to see that graph, and I'm very excited to see whether it actually still stays on the screen, because it's probably going to be crazy.
Yeah, definitely was. Lots of magic damage coming out of him. Not a lot of random omens being built by the opponents as well. So kind of tragic, honestly, from AHQ. They felt a bit disconnected as a team. I don't know if I expected more, but it wasn't what I expected.
I mean, the early game was good. A lot of props to Chowie there. Ziv was also doing really well. You know, when you have an elongated lane phase like that, Jax is just going to run away with it. It just, again, that transition from mid into late game. We've seen AHQ struggle with this in the LMS, and it happened here today.
It did, but we are going to go to that interview now. So, Wendy, take it away and take us through what RNG are going to say with Xiaohu on your screen right now.
So we now have Xiaohu, and he's saying hi to everyone. The first question. So it's his first day for the Asian Rift Rival. And do you feel the pressure? So he said that he doesn't feel the pressure. And yes, his Corki did perform very well. 912 KDA. So this Rift Rival, it is between regions. So LPL is getting together and versing other people. So he does think that this tournament structure is very interesting.
所以说我们需要
And it is
团结一
LPL's
心
honor.
一起来为 LPL 的荣誉奋斗，是吗？好，那下一个问题呢，也想问到，因为前期
So
呢，
the
我
next
觉得
question.
像岩雀、塔利亚这样的一个英雄呢，其实他支援是非常多的。那你们在
So
这样的一
like
个点上
Talia,
是怎么样面对的呢？
she has a lot of help from other people.
其实他前期支援了这一波，是因为我就是报密什么
Xiaohu
的
is
嘛，因
saying
为他
that
确实
early game, Talia's
我
support from teammates is not that
哇哦，确实是
strong.
觉得他们那一
So
波
he
二
did
级
feel
有
like
种
he
美国
did a
已经没
good
有想到的
performance.
那同时呢，也可以看到，其实你在17分钟还是8分钟的时候，在下路丝血差一点
So we
点天
did
秀
see
晚
that the
上塔利亚当
17
时
to 18
你有没有
minutes,
想到
the
可
bot
可
lane
以
fight
拿
with
下它
Talia, it was
当时
so
确实
close.
觉得自己
It nearly
逼
was
死了嘛，然
led to a
后
solo
打
kill.
着打着，其实是不想用闪现的，然后突然
So he did say that he
骚
didn't
念
want
就
to
把
use the
闪现按
flash,
了
but then he
然后
realized
既
that,
然黑
oh,
暗
there was
了
a
就只能
chance.
继续操作下去了。
So yeah, he did continue the
非常的
fight.
可惜。那如果说
It was a
那一下
pity.
A 出来的话，可能就真的是天秀了。好，那下一个问题呢，也是想问到，因为今天我看到他们选用的一个阵容也是4-1分推。那
So
我
the
看到
next
你们
question
贾
was
克斯这个
that
点
the
也是
enemy
一直
team
有
did have a
就是
4-1.
想要去攻破，很多人带着去一起去干克贾克斯。那当时为什么你们会这样做呢？
So the question was that why did you go for the
对面打得
Jax?
比较好嘛，他们中路的4个人没有给什么机会，所以我们就要去。
So Xiaohu is saying that
然后
the
就
enemy
找
did
到
do a
了。
good
哎，那下一
performance
个问题也想
and they
问到
did
呢，因为
do
你们
well,
对
so
阵
we
的
ended up just
强
taking
队
off
是
Jax.
KT，有没有信心？
So the next team, the strong team is KT, and we're asking if he has the
全息为主
confidence.
很好，心态非常好。那下一个问题也想问到，今天赢了比赛之后，会不会说吃一点好吃的，或者是稍事轻松一下？
So he did win the battle, and we're asking if he would have some good food
继续训练，能够保
and
持一个
continue
非
his
常好的
training.
状
And he
态
said that he will continue his
期
training.
待我们 RNG 呢能够在
So we will
明天
anticipate
当中
RNG's
再
performance.
次感谢我们的小虎。
Thank you,
那接下
Xiaohu
来呢
again.
会有非常精彩的比赛等待着各位，我们一会儿再见。
Okay, so they were going to have some more practice, but are they going to get the food? We'll never know, but ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a short break. When we get back, it is going to be SKT versus Flash Wolves.